Here you go, young boy. Here's your first Pokemon. Take good care.
Thank you, Professor. I'll make sure to do so. What the fuck?
Welcome to Pokemon FireRed, but all my Pokemon take damage every step. Sounds impossible? I don't think so, and that's why I made it even harder by removing all renewable healing items to completely flip the game upside down, making this a unique, difficult and fun challenge. Enjoy the video. We obviously start in Pallet Town, which may or may not already be a death trap, so let's get our first Pokemon and find out. There really is only one option here, and that is Bulbasaur. Not only does it have the highest HP stat of all the starters, it will get an essential move in a couple levels. I also made sure to reset for a Bulbasaur with a near perfect HP stat, and even though it took 3 damage before even entering the first rival fight, it still managed to beat up my rival's Charmander. This rewarded it with some much needed experience, getting my starter closer to learning that vital move, but we're not quite there yet. So let's go to the grass and grind up my Oh. Does this mean I already need to use my one starting potion from the PC? Luckily not. The current heal point of my mom is just close enough to the grass so I can get there with a single hit point remaining, and you can walk in place without taking damage to encounter wild Pokemon. Rattata has a chance to use Tail Whip, so with a bit of luck I managed to get my Bulbasaur to level 7, at which it learned Leech Seed. This move plants a seed on the opponent, which slowly drains their HP to heal up mine, letting me take more steps in the overworld. I can only use it 10 times though, and since I usually take damage while draining HP as well, it's not efficient enough to get me through the entirety of Route 1 just yet. I could reach this cleric who hands out a free potion, but it's still nowhere near enough to make it to the next town. So, what now? Well, it's time to grind. A lot. After one real life hour of gameplay, Bulbasaur reached level 15 to get Sleep Powder. This let me take way less damage while healing up with Leech Seed, and combined with the increase in base HP, it finally let me arrive in Viridian City after almost another full hour. I then made sure to heal up at the Pokemon Center there before grabbing Oak's Parcel and going back through Route 1. You might think it would have been smarter to not heal there and instead Death Warp to Pallet Town, but the way back is a lot shorter because I can now jump down ledges, and after delivering the parcel and getting Pokeballs, I can now Death Warp to Viridian City instead. Also, just to prove it to you, here's the Pokemart. You can't buy potions. Now think of any other way to get renewable healing items, and forget about it, since I made sure to remove those as well. I didn't remove the field items though, so there's still this potion in Viridian City, but since it's behind the gut tree instead of inside it like in Gen 1, it's too many steps away for me to grab. Speaking of things out of reach, I can't even make it to the grass on Route 2. There wasn't anywhere else to go, so after making a save state to prevent me from completely soft-locking myself, I used one of my 2 potions for a couple extra steps, letting me reach the next encounter patches with just 3 HP remaining. Here I had to already use up 2 out of my 10 Leech Seed PP to make my way into one of the worst locations in this challenge, Viridian Forest. This place is hell. Yes, I can easily heal up on Metapod or Kakuna without taking damage, but do you have any idea how many steps this maze requires to get through? 1, 2, yeah, me neither, but it's a lot. And surprisingly, Leech Seed PP is not the issue. It's the fact that with still ways to go, I run out of other moves, so I can't waste turns anymore while I heal up with Leech Seed. I could catch a second Pokemon to switch between for wasting turns instead, but this results in only half as much recovery for my Bulbasaur. 1 hour of resetting later to play as optimally as possible, I was almost at the end of this hellscape, so I evolved my starter into Ivysaur, used my last Leech Seed against the Kakuna, and beat the mandatory trainer without taking damage. At this point, Ivysaur was on its last legs, but I wasn't. There was a hidden potion here, and since I still had open party slots, I could catch a random Metapod to gain 20 more steps, letting me get through the exit gate of Viridian Forest to reach the second part of Route 2. Here I could catch another Pokemon, but that still wasn't enough to reach the Pewter City Poke Center. This meant I had to use the second potion of the run, finally getting to Nurse Joy with just a 4 HP Rattata left. Next up was the Pewter Gym, and there's this stupid fence blocking the direct path to the gym, so instead I gotta take a bajillion steps to go around it, forcing me to also use the third potion of the run, leaving me with no healing items at all. The gym itself wasn't any issue since I had a level 17 Ivysaur with Overgrow boosted Vine Whips to one-shot both of Brock's Pokemon, but then I had to make more progress and Pewter City requires yet another potion for leaving, which I didn't have. I wasn't completely soft-locked though, since Ivysaur had enough HP to get me back to Route 2 and then into Viridian Forest, where I could now go out of my way to grab a potion near the end and another one at the start. A Death Warp and one potion later, it was time to take on Route 3. Even though there's not much grass here, all the weak trainers provided more than enough HP for my Ivysaur to drain and I could easily make it to the next Poké Center, which is right outside of Mount Moon. You thought Viridian Forest was pain? It was, but this is just straight up torture. This giant cave consists of multiple floors with many winding paths, especially the bottom floor where you gotta walk all the way around to get to the end, so obviously this is gonna require optimal movement and recovery. For the latter, I try to use the trainers as much as possible since their Pokemon generally have higher HP stats than the wild encounters, like this first last with a level 14 Clefairy getting Ivysaur back to full HP. Moving on, I skipped the second last since her grass type wouldn't be affected by Leech Seed, and instead I made my way to the youngster Josh. I only managed to drain 23 HP from a Zubat with a bunch of resetting, but this was enough to get me to the next trainer whose Geodude got me back to above half health. I know I'm discussing this in a lot of detail and it might not seem that bad yet, but just you wait. Now that we've cleared out the first part, it's time to go one floor below, and here I made a big mistake. I saved, and this was the first soft lock of the challenge. Since Ivysaur is almost dead, I can't move forward nor backward, and the brutal part is that even though I can get an encounter on any tile in this cave, this floor only has Paris, which doesn't get affected by Leech Seed. I had made a save state before entering Mount Moon, so I didn't have to do the entire early game again, but this just showed how brutal this segment was gonna be. It wasn't all disappointments though, since there were a couple useful items for me to grab in here. They weren't that far in, so I avoided the trainers and instead only battled wild Pokemon for recovery, letting me grab a potion on the main floor and a star piece for some money on the floor below. There is one more item I want to grab, but that one will be further in, so I'll discuss that later. For now, let's see how far I can get. This time I decided to heal up against a wild Geodude instead of youngster Josh's Zubat since that's more consistent, and use my 4th Leech Seed on another wild Geodude to fully heal Ivysaur before going down the first ladder. I could now get through the Paris infested tunnel, which sounds like something from Legends Arceus, with enough HP left to make it to the first Rocket Grunt. His Rattata wasn't great for healing, so I just one-shot it, leveling up Ivysaur so it learned Razor Leaf, an amazing upgrade over the 10 PP Vine Whip, and the Sandshrew was in fact a good source of recovery. Next up is a long stretch without trainers, so let's talk about the wild encounters here. I've mainly been using high level Geodude to heal up on, but there's also a low chance of finding Clefairy here with a much higher HP stat. The annoying part is that even when I do find one, I often still have to reset because I take too much damage from Double Slap, or even worse, get hit by an Encore to make me repeat Leech Seed, wasting a bunch of valuable PP. So, to see the Geodude later, and I could make my way to the last 2 trainers of the cave, beating both of them with only taking 5 damage in total. Even though I was almost out of this hell and still had 3 Leech Seed PP left, I didn't have any other moves to waste, so I had to resort to catching a second Pokemon and constantly switching to only get half of the recovery on Ivysaur. If you watch the following footage, you might think I made the same mistake of saving on a Paris only floor again, soft-locking me that way for the second time. At least that's what I thought at first when I rewatched this when writing the script a month later. But what I actually did here was saving so I could reset until I managed to catch a wild Paris with high HP, since that had more HP than my Ivysaur had left at this point. After catching one of those little hyper aggressive fella, I could finally leave this godforsaken place and...
Finally! Now I just need to get to Cerulean City.
Ow.
Yeah, I died, despite using my 2 remaining potions and catching an Ekans in the last grass patch possible. I discovered that catching a Clefairy before the Paris floor would leave me with just enough HP to only need 1 potion for reaching the tall grass, letting me use the second one right before entering the city, but I was still a couple steps shy of making it to the Poké Center. So now this might seem impossible without a bunch of grinding, but the answer lies back within Mount Moon. Remember me saying there was another item to grab? I had to go out of my way to get it, which is why I didn't do it earlier, but I could pick up a Revive. So now instead of using that second potion for 20 extra steps, I revived my Ivysaur for 34 more, finally letting me enter the Cerulean City Poké Center after being stuck in that damned cave for almost 4 hours. I know I just talked about Mount Moon for about 5 minutes, so let's speed it up a bit. Misty obviously wasn't any issue since my overleveled grass starter could easily wipe out her water types, and although I needed a bit of luck for the rival fight, I'm no stranger to saves coming at this point, so with the done it was time for Nugget Bridge. The small gauntlet here wasn't any issue, and neither was finding enough opportunities to heal up my Ivysaur against all these trainers, but after sweeping through the adjacent route I was almost out of PP with one trainer left who had 2 Oddish and a Pidgey. Luckily I could just barely squeeze out a victory by taking down the first Oddish with my remaining Razor Leaves, the Pidgey with Leech Seed healing up in the process, and the second Oddish with Struggle after wasting my remaining HP, letting me get to Bill's house with just enough HP to help him out.
Thank you for helping me out. Here, have this boat ticket. I don't really like boats anyways. Have a safe trip.
No problem, man. I'll see you later.
What?
If you're wondering who that guy was, that is Max, a good friend who's been on the channel before, and recently when we hung out, I asked him to play a totally normal ROM of FireRed. That was this ROM hack. After he messed around a bit in Palatown, I took over around 2 PM and ended up playing this challenge almost non-stop until like 3 AM, and that only got me to this point. The early game was absolutely brutal, but also a lot of fun to figure out, and the game will definitely get easier from here on out. So what's next? A short route and then the underground path. Even with max HP, I'm still a couple steps short of making it to the other side, meaning I have to use my last potion. It might seem worrying that I'm out of healing items, but I could now grab a hidden citrus berry on the route before Vermilion, and then it was time to hop aboard the plentiful SS Anne. The only scary part was making it to the healing spot, which I did with only 1 HP left, but I could now scour the boat to grab a super potion, a hyper potion and a TM for a rest, although I decided to not use a ladder since that seemed too overpowered. With the ship fully plundered, I took on my rival for the 3rd time and it was quite a tricky battle. Ivysaur is great for the first couple gyms, but it struggles a bit with the rival, but because of my level advantage I could Leech Seed stall the Pidgeotto, one-shot the Kadabra with Razor Leaf, take care of Charmeleon with a combination of the two, and round out the fight with another Razor Leaf Oko against Eradicate. That unlocked the HM for Cut, which gave me access to the Vermilion gym, and as I just said, Ivysaur can easily deal with the first couple gyms, in this case because I resist electric type attacks. Even though Raichu made it close with paralysis, double team dodges and a crit, I still managed to take them down, causing Ivysaur to evolve into Venusaur and getting me the 3rd badge. Rock Tunnel was up next, which might sound awful, but it's not as bad as it seems. First though, I went through Diglett Tunnel to arrive back at Route 2 so I could grab the HM for Flash and go back to Viridian City to finally grab that potion behind the cut tree. Venusaur's higher HP set could get me back through the underground path, but I still needed to use healing items here because the grass was behind a ledge, so I used a citrus berry and an orange berry to reach the Pokemon Center in Cerulean City. I don't think I mentioned picking up the ladder, but hey, I'm sure editing me can put it on screen right now. Route 9 wasn't an issue, so now it's actually time for Rock Tunnel. This was nowhere close to Mount Moon in difficulty, because by now my recovery was a lot better, so it was actually more like the Nugget Bridge segment. I had made my way to the final trainer of the cave, but there yet again was an incredibly annoying Oddish while I only had a couple Razor Leaves left. At this point, I decided to just use the TM for Secret Power to give me a more consistent attack, and I could probably just use Leech Seed for anything that wouldn't work against. This let me destroy that stupid Oddish, getting me out of Rock Tunnel and into Lavender Town. To keep the battle still somewhat interesting, I decided to challenge my rival in the Pokemon Tower sooner rather than later, and Secret Power made this fight a breeze. It two-shot everything except the Gyarados, which I easily stalled out with Leech Seed and Sleep Powder for the win. The next gym is located in Celadon City, which requires me to travel through another underground path, but since there was a trainer right in front of it, I could practically fully heal my Venusaur and safely get to the tall grass on the other side. The annoying thing here is that I have to walk over 100 steps before I can challenge the gym leader, and since this is a grass gym, I can't use Leech Seed for recovery against the random trainers. Luckily her grass types couldn't do much to me either, so with a combination of Sleep Powder, Secret Power and the Health Cherry Berry to counter Stun Spore, I could get the 4th badge. Not just that, but also the TM for Giga Drain. This is a damage dealing grass type move which drains the opponent's HP, but only has 60 base power and 5 PP, unlike in newer gens where it has 75 base power and 10 PP, so it's not that useful here, but I'll keep it in the bag for later. We're like, 15-16 minutes into the video, and I'm still only using Venusaur, so let's change that. With the small amount of money that I had, I could buy enough Game Corner coins to exchange for an Abra. This might seem like a poor choice because of its low HP, but you'll see why I chose it after a bit of switch training. Oh, okay, it died before I got to the grass. It's okay though, I just thought that Shockwave by TM, went to Vermilion City and fished near the Pokemon Center to grind up Abra against some level 5 Magikarp. A couple levels later it had enough HP to make it to the grass, and to speed up this grind I did something I should have done way sooner, catching an Oddish with Sweet Scent. This move lets you instantly initiate a battle if you're on a tile that could give you encounters, so I can finally stop mashing up and down in place to find wild Pokemon. Once Abra evolved into Kadabra, I also decided to just grab the TM for Psychic and teach it that so it can carry its own weight while grinding, and at level 25 it got Recover. This is much needed. Leech Seed is nice and all, but it's slow, so being able to instantly heal half of my HP is an amazing upgrade. Kadabra could deal with most of the rocket grunts in the game corner hideout, letting me grab some healing items along the way as well, but I did end up using Venusaur for the Giovanni fight since Kadabra isn't that strong yet. To fix that, I cleared out some previously skipped trainers and stormed through the Pokemon Tower with it, easily dealing with both the mediums and the rocket grunts at the top. This got me the Pokeflute, so I decided to add another useful Pokemon to the team, Snorlax. I said I wouldn't use a TM for a rest, but Snorlax already learned it naturally, and combined with its base 160 HP stat, that makes for an amazing team member. And yes, I know there's leftovers here, but I'm not using that either, that would be kinda boring. That wasn't the only addition though. After grabbing the HM for Fly and using a rest Snorlax to get through the cycling road, I arrived in Fuchsia City where I could enter the Safari Zone. You might see where this is going. Yep, I want to get a Chansey. For those who don't know, Chansey is one of the rarest Pokemon in the Safari Zone, and even when you do find one, it has a high chance of running away, but this is the only location for you to get one. In the 30 minutes of encounters in the first area, I only found a single 1% Chansey, which immediately fled, but luckily there's another spot in the Safari Zone where it has a 5% encounter rate instead. This still took a very long time though, and it was a huge pain. I was using my Sweet Scent Oddish to get encounters, but it also had Cut, which if I accidentally clicked it, would get rid of some of the overgrowth grass around me, and if that happened too many times, I'd have to reset the game. I finally caught a Chansey after roughly 1.5 hours, and yes, the recording got a bit messed up, so sorry for that. Anyways, it's fixed now, so let's talk about why Chansey is so good for me. It's an incredibly bulky Pokemon with 250 base HP, and most importantly, it has Soft Boiled. In battle, this is the same as Recover, but outside of battle, it lets me share 20% of its max HP with another Pokemon, basically making Chansey an HP bank. I could now also use Chansey to get through the remainder of the Safari Zone, not just to grab the Gold Teeth and the Surf HM, but also to grab a bunch of amazing healing items that I'm gonna save for the Elite Four. Before I can get there though, I still gotta take down 4 more gyms, so let's quickly storm through all of those. After getting through the Fuchsia gym trainers and fully healing Kadabra with Chansey Soft Boiled, I just one-shot all of Koga's poison types with Psychic for the 5th badge. The Soft Boiled didn't end up being necessary, but I still wanted to show it off, okay? Silphco was up next, and after scouring all the different floors for any healing items I could find, it was time to take on my rival using an actual team instead of just my starter for the first time. First up was Pidgeot vs Snorlax, and I took down the bird with Snore out of all moves. Ever used it? No? Fair enough, it only works when your Pokemon is asleep. Gyarados would be a lot harder to take down with my physical attacker because of Intimidate, so after using Yawn and a rest, I could safely switch into Kadabra to one-shot the Water Flying type with a quite effective critical Shockwave. Charizard could live a hit though and retaliate by burning my Kadabra to a crisp, so I let Snorlax get another kill. And another one. And one more to get the victory. Before facing off against the Team Rocket boss, I talked to this NPC to get a Lapras, mainly just for Surf, and I replaced Venusaur's secret power with Giga Drain. It wasn't my main attacker anymore, so I didn't need consistency, and instead focused on just doing one thing really well, obliterating Giovanni's rock and ground types with a single grass move each. So now let's get back to taking down the gyms. At this point, traveling is quite trivial with all the different recovery options I have, especially since there's an abundance of trainers, and both the water routes and the Pokemon Mansion can give me encounters on any tiles, so it's basically impossible to get soft locked. I had to be a bit more conservative with my HP in the Fire Gym, since there are no wild Pokemon here, so instead of constantly showing off my unlimited Pokemon knowledge, I took on some of the trainers to heal up against before taking on Blaine. His Growlithe got easily one-shot by a single Psychic, but the evolved form took the hit and managed to take down Kadabra with, well, takedown. Snorlax continued to carry though with Rest, Sleep Talk and Body Slam while comfortably taking the fire type attacks with its incredible HP and special defense, easily getting me the 7th badge. With that done, it's time to fight my way through the final gym. Wait, what? Why is it? Oh, I forgot Sabrina. Snorlax yet again was insanely useful, taking down everything except for Alakazam since it landed a critical hit for the KO, but because Body Slam paralyzed it earlier, Kadabra could come in to finish the job with a critical hit of its own. So now that I actually have 7 badges, I can finally take on the Viridian Gym. If you have a strong water type, you can easily sweep Giovanni with Surf, but my Lapras is a bit low level, so this might be a bit trickier, or not, because Kadabra Psychic managed to OHKO all of his Pokemon. Well, time for Victory Road. I'm not gonna talk about the rival battle right before it, since it's basically the same as the champion fight, so let's talk about how painful Victory Road was. Actually, it wasn't that bad. It's not as long as I thought beforehand, and again, I got more than enough tools at the moment to get me through the longer routes in the game. So to make this place a bit more interesting, I wrote a song. And with that, I mean, I asked my friend the word of the day is Jay to write a GBA remix on an already existing song, so I can then write a parody on it. But either way, let's hit it. Every move you make will be a mistake. You won't catch a break. Every step you take, I'll be hurting you. Every single cave could become your grave. Even on a wave, no, you won't be safe. I'll be hurting you. Oh, can you see? Damn, the music ended. Well, I guess I'll take this time to ask you to like and subscribe. I have a bunch of cool challenge runs planned, and for now, let's just get back to this one and take on the Pokemon League. First up is the Ice Specialist Lorelei, but because of a bunch of her Pokemon were also part water, I left with my Grass type Venusaur. Giga Drain still didn't do a lot against Dewgong, so I decided to use Leech Seed instead. Safeguard prevented me from putting it to sleep, so I wasted one turn with Growl, waiting for Leech Seed to put it in range for Giga Drain to finish it off on the next turn. Slowbro was up next and went down to Leech Seed after a bit of stalling, bringing out Cloyster third. I was hoping that a single Giga Drain would be a one-shot because of its poor special defense, and even though that wasn't the case, Lorelei didn't use a full restore here, so Leech Seed finished the job. Unfortunately, Lapras ended up taking down Venusaur because I already used up all of my Giga Drains, so Snorlax had to come in to get the kill. Her last Pokemon shouldn't really be an issue, but the combo of Sleep and Infatuation managed to immobilize my tank for long enough to let Jinx finish it off, which then also took down my Kadabra. Pretty frustrating, but it's nothing a couple of resets couldn't fix, so voila, Snorlax broke through a track to get revenge on the Jinx, and that's the first Elite Four member down. I didn't expect Bruno to be an issue since Kadabra just goes to town with Psychic here, but Machamp could barely live a hit, one-shot my Frill Psychic type with a resisted cross-chop, and I didn't have much left to take it down after a full restore. I decided to redo the Lorelei battle more efficiently by beating Lapras with Snorlax instead of Venusaur to keep it alive, so I could use it to stall out Machamp to round out the second Elite Four fight. You might be wondering, why didn't I just revive Venusaur? And to that I say, did you forget that I removed all renewable healing items? I only had a single regular revive and 2 max revives for this gauntlet. In hindsight, I probably should have kept the 6 rare candies I used on Snorlax, since raising a Pokemon's max HP while leveling it up can work as a revive as well, but let's see if I can still do this with a few healing items I have left. I used the first of my 3 revives on Kadabra, since Agatha was actually a full sweep with Psychic, so that was definitely worth it. Now that there were only 2 battles left, I could be a bit more generous with my healing items, so I fully healed up all of my main attackers while keeping enough recovery for after the battle against Lance. That started with me baiting a Hyper Beam from his lead Gyarados with Kadabra, swapping in my Sweet Scent Oddish for its first appearance in battle, just to get sacked. This gave me a free turn to use Calm Mind with Kadabra, which I taught by TM to boost my special stats while Gyarados had to recharge, and it then went down to a single Shockwave on the following turn. Aerodactyl could outspeed and one-shot Kadabra with a physical ancient power, so I used Snorlax to paralyze it first, then took it down with Kadabra after taking some unnecessary risks, but I'm never punished. My Psychic type didn't have enough plot armor to get through Dragonite though, so the rest of this fight was up to Snorlax and Venusaur. And despite the level disadvantage, they actually managed to pull it off. Outrage is a special attack in this game, so Snorlax took it quite well while spreading paralysis across Lance's team, so with the help of Venusaur's leech seed, Snorlax could finish off all the remaining dragon types with Body Slam. With only one battle left, I revived my Kadabra and Lapras, others was gonna have to watch from the sidelines, fully healed my other Pokemon, and it was time for the champion rival fight. Because I was quite underleveled, I needed to get a bit cheesy. I knew Calm and Kadabra could put in quite some work, but setting up wasn't that easy, so it's time for safe scumming of course. At this point I wouldn't be able to just leave to grind up my Pokemon since I forgot to make a save state before the Elite Four and I already used up most of my healing items, so losing now and then doing it again would be a lot harder, so we're just resetting for the perfect luck. Pidgeot kept ruining my day with aerial aids while I tried to set up enough Calm Mind, so I was actually hoping for a Sand Attack here. Shockwave never misses, so with a couple special attack boosts I could use that to OHKO Pidgeot and Gyarados and do good damage to Charizard as well. Most times I would get overwhelmed after Kadabra went down though, so I taught Snorlax Toxic by TM to make it an even dirtier stall Pokemon. After roughly 20 minutes of resetting, I got this attempt where Pidgeot used Sand Attack twice in a row before going on the offense, so with 3 boosts I could get back to Charizard. And then it was time for Snorlax to shine. I'd love to go into a play-by-play here, but actually no, I'd hate that. All you gotta know is that Toxic does increasing damage at the end of every turn while I stayed alive with rest and could use moves even when asleep with Sleep Talk. This let me stall out Charizard, as Snorlax's 4th move Body Slam easily took down the opposing Alakazam. Exeggutor went down to Toxic as well, so all that remains is Rhydon. One Earthquake surprisingly killed Snorlax, but this gave me the perfect chance to finish this challenge with the Pokemon I started it with. The Rock Ground type actually lived a Giga Drain, but after a full restore, Venusaur landed a critical hit for the Yoko, so I beat my rival for the final time, making me the new Kanto champion.
So now I just gotta register my Pokemon in that machine over there. Oh shit.
So, that is that. I am really happy with how everything about this challenge turned out. It being possible with basically the hardest setting of damage every single step, unlike poison damage which activates every 4 or 5 steps. The fact that I finally figured out how to make this ROMhack with Decomp after having this idea for over a year. And it's of course incredibly amazing that Small Ant ended up playing this challenge in Emerald after I randomly emailed him that version. For anyone who found my channel through Smant, hey, I'm a random idiot on the internet doing insanely dumb and original Pokemon challenges, and I hope you enjoy them. If you want to do this challenge in either Pokemon FireRed or Emerald for yourself, there's a link to a Google Drive with the patches and instructions in the description, and that's it for this video. I'll see you next time, and of course, stay alive.